The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Conor Commentary, a hilarious take on news, politics, sports, and current events. It's time to buckle up. Here's Conor.
All right, guys, we are back, and it is episode 35, and we have our first official call-in this week from Pat's Chatter 24/7. That's on Twitter, right, Tony? You there?
That is, yep.
All right, perfect. He's with us, Ben. We did it.
We did it.
We had the first Zoom call. Now we have the first official call-in.
Yeah, miracles can happen, Connor.
Apparently. Hey, my hat's off to you for being able to make it work.
My hat's still on.
I appreciate that. And I got to be honest, we're lying in the intro. There's no studio audience today.
I'm in the studio audience.
That's true. You're here.
That counts, man.
That counts, right, Tony?
Just count Ben.
Yeah, exactly. I think this could be the first time, though, I don't see anyone here.
It's a little weird. A bunch of people are in the back office. They're doing meetings back there.
Are they? Is that what's going on? I don't see anyone.
Yeah.
But
Normally
I
the
have faith
crew
in
would
you.
be out here watching you,
Right.
and the studio audience,
Typically.
quote unquote, would be here.
And Tony would be here up on
I would be
stage,
here.
right? You'd
But-
be here in person and everything.
But they're on a Zoom call.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Go
It's all
figure,
virtual
man.
reality we're living in now.
Hey,
Exactly.
we all should have invested in Zoom before this all happened, right? Are they a publicly traded company?
Yep, they are. Yep,
They are. Did you invest any money?
No.
No, me neither, Ben.
No.
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 Usually, when you hear about something, it's already too late.
Right, that's very true. People like us who are regular run-of-the-mill people, we don't know about these things.
Yeah.
No.
A bunch of people in Washington invested
Exactly.
a ton of money, and they were like, oh, Zoom is going to go through the roof.
Well, my problem is the congressmen who found out that, oh, this is going to be bad, and they found out
Yeah,
in
the insider
January,
trading.
and then they were like, selling everything.
Right. That
Fire
did
sale.
happen, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was brutal.
Kind of like the Patriots, right? Fire sale.
That's
Sale
what
everything.
I was just going to say, man. That's what the Patriots have been doing with the fire sale. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, first and foremost, comments on the Gronk trade. What do you guys think? Tony?
There's a lot of different comments. I mean, looking at it from a business perspective of as far as the return, I think it's the best they could have got.
Right.
I mean, they weren't in a position of power.
Yeah, they had no
Gronk-
leverage.
Yeah, they had absolutely no leverage. Gronk clearly wanted to play only for Brady, with Brady in Tampa Bay. He was done with the Patriots. So I think the Patriots and Belichick made the most of what they possibly could have done. So in that sense, the return, it's a found fourth round pick. In
Right.
the sense of now watching the greatest quarterback and greatest tight end in the history of the organization to play on another team, that's just devastating and heart-wrenching.
Right.
That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I'm not upset about the compensation because, I
No.
mean, Gronk, I think, basically said, I want to come back and play with Brady. If not, I'll stay retired.
Exactly.
So it wasn't like they could come
Their hands
out.
were tied.
Yeah, they couldn't come out and demand like a first or second round pick. They had to kind of take what they were given.
Because even if they played hardball and Gronk, the Patriots then would have had to sign him onto the cap,
Right.
which would have been about a $10 million hit. And that means to carry him in the last 24 hours, they would have had to release $7 to $8 million worth of players.
Right.
They don't even have enough money right now to sign all their draft picks. They need about $2.5 million to do that, and they're only $1 million under the cap. So it couldn't have happened. Tampa Bay honestly could have even played, more hardball with the team. So
Right.
I'm glad we just got what we got for him.
Yeah, because they couldn't have done anything because he was $10 million, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they only had 2.2 left.
Right. So they have 2.2 and he's 10 million.
And they had no leverage. So when
Right.
you look at the fact that they had no leverage and they had no space to even bring him back if he wanted to come back,
Right.
the fact that you got a fourth out of that is not a
Yeah,
bad
found
deal.
money.
It's
It's found money.
Yeah, it's found
Yeah.
money. Yeah.
it's a win-win for both.
Right. It really is. Because
And as in the sense of an NFL fan and just being able to appreciate as a Patriots fan what we witnessed with them for the last 9+ years, Gronk obviously and Brady 20+, it's going to be fun to at least see them together again. That being
Right.
said, now you have to say, damn, they're wearing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey, so that's going to be tough, at least for me.
Right, it's going to be very tough. But I think, what do you think? You think they're going to have that type of success that they had, or do you think they both are going to be a shell of their former selves?
So, I mean, let's talk about Gronk because he's missed the year of football,
Mhm.
and now he'll be age 31 with likely no OTAs under the belt this year with this,
Right.
coronavirus going on. So, that being said, man, I think the year is going to do him well. I honestly think his floor is, and a reasonable expectation is mirroring his 2018 numbers, which I think was 47 receptions, 682 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
So I think he can definitely match those numbers in Tampa. And honestly, I expect him to go over those numbers.
I would say so too. And everyone, obviously, in the statistics category, from like a fantasy football standpoint or whatever, he took a massive step back. But he blocked like an animal in 2018, especially in the playoffs.
Gronk, to me, in 2018, everyone wants to say he was a shell of himself. I disagree completely. I think he was banged up. I think he fought through a lot of injuries, as kind of he usually has during his tenure with the Patriots. But like you said, I think without Gronk in 2018, you don't win that Super Bowl. No way, no how.
No, I agree completely. I don't think they would have either. And I think predominantly Sony Michel followed the blocks of either one Gronk or 2 James Devlin that whole playoffs.
Yep. So Gronk, I think he has a lot left in the tank. When I say a lot, I think if he wanted to extend this contract with Tampa Bay, I think he's got 2 to 3 more Pro Bowl caliber years left in him.
Right. So this year, you think he's just going to take off again?
Especially in that offense, I do. I honestly think me saying that he's going to go 680 and 3 touchdowns is actually undershooting it. I honestly think 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns is very realistic. I do.
I do too. And you know what the thing is? It's going to be that they can run a 2 tight end set with him, and if they keep O.J. Howard, even if they don't keep O.J. Howard, then they automatically have Cameron Brake step right in.
There keeps being rumors floated around that one day the Patriots are in on Howard, one day they're not. Now, as of about 2 hours ago, they're back in. So who knows? I'd like to see that happen.
What are the rumors? Because they already exchanged a 4th-round pick. You would think that would be roughly like what they would want in exchange for Howard, right?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those weird deals, kind of with what happened with Garoppolo in San Francisco.
Yep.
And when they made the deal with San Francisco and Garoppolo, and then during the draft that year, they kind of gave the Patriots a wink, nod, Trent Brown for I think it was a 4th or a 5th round pick.
Right.
So I could see something like that where if Howard really is on the market, the Patriots might just dump a 5th or 6th their way and consummate a deal, but who knows? It's all rumors right now.
Right, that would make sense. I mean, if not, what do you guys think is going to happen at the tight end situation? Because last year that was an absolute debacle, and right now they might as well not have any tight ends on the roster.
So I completely agree with you, Connor. Let me say right off the bat, I don't care what they do at tight end as long as the first 2 things they do is immediately release Ryan Izzo and Matt LaCosse. I have absolutely no use for them on my team.
Right.
They might be the most useless tight end combination in the NFL, and I don't think that's underselling it by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I don't either. They offered absolutely no production last year whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone wants to say with Izzo he was injured. I don't care. He gave me nothing when he played. He gave me nothing while I don't have any interest in bringing him back. The draft is not too deep at tight end, but let's revamp that whole position starting with the draft. That's what I want to do.
Which you can do. There's some talented guys.
No, there is.
Randy Moss's son, right?
Thaddeus Moss.
Am I making that up, or is he legit?
He's legit. He's a real guy.
Okay.
I mean, none of them are first-round talents.
Right.
So the scouts say. But the
Yep.
one that apparently they like and other people are pumping up towards the Patriots is Troutman from Dayton.
Okay.
So I have a short list here.
Yeah, give us your list.
On tight end or in general?
So I kind of agree with what Ben's saying. I don't think any of them, again, this is from a draft layman here. I don't claim to be an expert by any means, but I do agree that there really isn't a first-round graded tight end. And my list in general is pretty short, but I see 3 tight ends that could be legitimate number ones.
Okay.
The tight ends that I do see are I see Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame, 6'6", 260 as a legitimate number one. Like Ben just said, I see Adam Trotman, 6'5", 255 out of Dayton as a legitimate. And then a guy that's kind of been coming on the scene the last month who I've done a little digging on, who I think is a little more raw than both of them, but honestly, he's the best blocking tight end in the draft. And he comes from a smaller school, is Harrison Bryant out of Florida Atlantic.
Okay.
He's another big body. He's 6'5", 250. So those are the 3 guys where if the Patriots could come out of the draft with one of those tight ends, I would say that those guys have the ceiling to be a legitimate number one. There's a couple other guys in the mixed together, in the 4th to 6th rounds that I'd like to see them kind of be able to double dip at that position. And 2 of those guys that I like are Let's see. This is a mouthful. Is Albert Okaway-Bunam out of
Okay.
Missouri?
Wow, good for
I've
you.
never heard of him.
Yeah,
Good for
he's
you.
6'6", 260, and he runs a 4.5 40.
Oh,
and you can't
Jesus.
just go off of athletic credentials alone.
Right,
but I
right.
have watched him play, and I do think he has potential to be a good number 2. And going back to what you said, Thaddeus Moss, I don't think his ceiling is number 1 tight end, but at 6'2", 250, I think he has a high ceiling to be a high number 2 with upside, and he is a really good blocking tight end. So if the Patriots could double dip that position with one of the first 3 that I mentioned, and then partner that with Moss or Okaway-Bunam, I think they'd be in business. That's how I feel about that.
Right. Do you see them drafting 2 tight ends? You guys think
I
they're
think
going to
it's
take
possible.
2?
They did that in 2010 with Hernandez and Gronk. So
I know. And when we
Yeah.
go back and look at it, neither Gronk or Hernandez were first-round picks.
No.
Exactly.
Right.
Well,
And
Gronk came out with the back injuries,
back,
and that's
yep.
what dropped him down. Everyone knew
Right.
the talent was there. They were just worried whether he could stand up for 2 or 3 seasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Hernandez was a little bit later because he obviously had his
He had-
concerns,
yeah,
which is,
he-
serial
just
killer.
minor concerns, though. He's only a sociopathic murderer, so.
Yeah.
Both of those ended up ringing true. Gronk did have a bunch of issues with health, and then Aaron Hernandez was convicted of 1 murder and acquitted of 2 others.
Yep, correct.
So he was accused of 3 murders and a multitude of other crimes, I believe. But
Yeah.
other than that, he was a pretty good player.
Yeah, he was an upstanding citizen other than those 2 little problems.
Right. Who do you guys see them taking at 23? What do you think they'll even keep the 23rd pick?
You want to start, Ben?
I think they're going to trade down. I'm
Do
pretty
you?
confident in that. You look
Yeah.
at it's a top heavy but deep draft, which kind of seems like an oxymoron.
Yep.
It's
Yep,
really
I agree.
loaded from the top, to the top 16, 17 guys, and everyone knows those guys are going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
After that, it gets confusing, and then in that confusion, I think this is where they can take some advantage. Plus, they don't have any seconds, and
Right.
that's
That's
a
a problem.
problem.
Right.
Yep.
And
that's
if
a
you think
problem.
about it, just the money side from going from a late first to a mid to late second
Mhm.
saves you some money.
Oh
so,
yeah, less up front.
I think it's less
right?
of a money issue and more of a value stance.
True.
But I
That's a
do
good
agree
point.
with what you're saying. I do.
What do you think that they can get by moving back from 23? You think they can get a second and a third?
Yeah,
or-
so I've been in my time in quarantine, not having a little bit of time in my hands,
Yeah, yeah.
I've been doing a
I
little
hear
bit
ya.
of mock drafting. So I'm kind of looking at how the projections of how the board might fall for the Patriots. So I have a couple of guys that let me first start off by saying I completely agree with Ben. I think that the most likely scenario is a trade back at 23, and I'm fully expecting them to do that.
Right.
However, let me, for the fun of the podcast, so people can have some kind of rooting interest tomorrow night and pretend the Patriots are going to pick. Hopefully they do. You never know with them.
I know this is
one
our
thing-
most exciting night in weeks.
Yeah, the one thing going into a draft in general, and especially a Patriots draft, is expect the unexpected, especially
Yes.
with Bill Belichick running
Yes.
the draft board.
Yep.
That's the only consistent thing that you can expect to happen. You're going to see something shocking from them, if not multiple shocking things. But I digress. Let me go back. As far as a couple of potential possible guys that could be on the board at 23 that I would really like and be interested in, I'll give you 2 defensive players. I'll give you 2 offensive players, and then I'll give you 2 of the Belichick what the F specials, the reaches.
All right,
the
let's
who-
hear it.
who
Are they
the hell is that guy?
Rutgers guys?
Yeah, no, not Rutgers is only second or third round. So let me start with the defensive prospects I see at 23.
Yep.
I really, really, really like this guy, Kenneth Murray, linebacker out of Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Really explosive player. He has all the intangibles on the field and off the field. He's a big leader. I see that guy as a franchise caliber player with whatever team drafts him. I think he's a can't miss guy. That's just my opinion.
Right.
The other guy I see is Xavier McKinney. He's a safety out of Alabama.
Yep.
I think it's possible he could fall to 23. He's going to be in that 17 to 25 range. So, with the Patriots, their safeties are up there in age. So he would be a guy that could secure that back end for years to come. So that's someone I
Right.
would look into.
Right.
As far as 2 offensive guys, both receivers actually. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver out of LSU, and athletic freak here, jumping off the charts, who's in the last month kind of really jumped off the draft boards, is Denzel Mims. He's a wide receiver from Baylor.
Okay. Is he like you said, an athletic freak? Is he like
Athletic
is this
freak.
like DK Metcalf time, second go around?
Yeah, I think so. But this time, instead of being drafted as late as Metcalf was, he definitely will be drafted before Metcalf.
Okay.
That's a pretty decent comp, I think.
And going back to, before you give us the Belichick special, going back to last year, what do you think about N'Keal Harry, last year's first round pick?
So I'm not giving up on Harry.
You're right.
injuries had a lot to do with it. Brady's, he never really can click with the rookie receivers, and I'm not putting that on Brady. The Patriots offense is really just hard to learn, especially in year one.
Right.
The last real successful rookie was Deion Branch, and honestly, I'm going to drop a name here that if you look at the stats, this is not wrong, but people are going to laugh me out of the room for saying this. Aaron Dobson, his rookie season, was actually, if you look at the stats, he actually had a pretty productive rookie season.
Did he? I always thought Aaron Dobson was a massive bust.
Go back and look at the numbers. He actually mirrored Deion Branch's rookie season,
really?
If I remember correctly.
Ben, are you looking it up?
No, Dobson had a good rookie season.
Did he?
He was just gone. Yeah, 37 receptions, 4 touchdowns. He
That's
had
not
a
bad.
productive season when they had quality players at that position already.
Right.
You
But
are
as a
absolutely
rookie, that
right.
was something.
Yes, as a rookie, and we all thought there was more to it and more to him, and then unfortunately,
I did.
He was what,
I
a
was a
second?
believer in Dobson. When they drafted him, I was really excited. I'm not going to lie.
Was he a second round pick? Aaron Dobson?
He was, yes.
I thought so. Okay.
Deion Branch's rookie season, 43 receptions, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So it wasn't. It was
He only played 13 games. But.
right.
Yep.
Somewhat similar.
But going back to Harry, I'm definitely not giving up on him. I see a lot of potential in him. I love his size. I love when I say explosiveness, I don't necessarily mean speed, but just his power, the way he plays in his power. He's very powerful. He can break tackles. He's an open field kind of guy. If he can get past the first guy, he's gonna make some guys miss. He's gonna run some people over. So I definitely see some promise in him. And I think with Stidham, who has a good arm, I think Harry can, he could be a productive player. So I think year 2 is going to be a big year for him. So I'm excited to see what he brings in year 2.
So are you thinking that Stidham? You said Stidham. You thinking that Stidham's going to be the starting quarterback?
As of today, yes.
You do, okay. Ben,
as of
are
today,
you shaking your head?
That could change tomorrow.
Who do you think?
As of today, yes.
Jared Stidham will be and should be the starting quarterback.
Yep.
But here's the caveat that people have to keep in mind. Everyone was talking about Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, James Johnson, all this
lately I've been hearing Brian Hoyer.
Ben, you beat me to it. I believe that's why I say as of today. But again, with Belichick, expect the unexpected. Everything's on the table. But let me give you 2 quick what the F Belichick specials, because
which will probably be the most accurate, because this is what Belichick does.
If they do make a pick in the first round, do not be surprised to see these guys. And before I get crucified here, let me say this. I'm not advocating for these players, and I do not dislike these players, but I do not love these players. I think both of these players are more second round guys, and that's why I also think they could be targeted in the second round in a trade back scenario.
Right.
However, the Patriots value who they value in their own way, so who knows? So these are both unsexy picks. They're both offensive linemen.
Okay.
So Cesar Ruiz, he's a guard/center out of Michigan.
Yep.
Who I do like him. I do see potential in the player, but I would not be ecstatic to see him taken off the board by us at 23. And another probably lesser known player, he's just outside of the top 5 tackles, depending on whose draft boards you look at, is Ezra Cleveland. He's an offensive tackle out of Boise State.
Okay.
I'm sure you've never heard of either of those, Connor, but get familiar, because whether it's 23 or a trade in the second round, those could be 2 guys that are on the Patriots board.
So by saying this, do you think that Joe Thuney is going to be traded?
So I think it's possible. It's going to be tough because he's under the franchise tender, which is almost $15 million.
Right.
But I do think that, and I think there were some rumors today that have been somewhat substantiated that the Dolphins are somewhat interested in. So in my opinion, if the Patriots are to trade Thuney, I think it's going to happen either today or tomorrow before the draft, just because the way the logistics of the draft being virtual, it's going to be a lot harder to make a deal and consummate it, and especially the physical. So I don't see it being likely at this point because a physical needs to be passed, but if it's going to happen, it's going to be early tomorrow or late tonight. And I think a trade partner that is rumored out there is the Dolphins.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I think yesterday.
Yeah, so
I saw
a trade that I
Dolphins.
could potentially see that I think would make sense for both teams which would allow the Patriots to get back into that second round, because the Dolphins do have 2 second-round picks, is something in the effect of Thuney and one of the Patriots' third-round picks, maybe their last third-rounder, we'll call it pick 100.
Yep.
For the Dolphins' 56th pick. I think something like that could be on the table. And if I was the Patriots, I would be interested in that type of deal.
Right. That would make sense, right? If they were able to grab somebody, what's 56? So you're in the second round still. They don't have a second round pick as of right now.
Exactly.
And they kind of need to get Joe's money off the books.
Yeah, they don't have to if they can come to a long-term deal. But as of now, it looks like they're having trouble doing that.
Right.
But because I do think they're going to be trading out of that 23 pick, at least again, I think that's the most likely scenario. There's a couple of trades I have looking at the trade value draft trade value chart.
Yep.
So the Patriots pick 23 is worth around 760 points, draft points, depending on where you look. So I think that 3 teams to look out that have second-round picks that could be potential trade partners that make sense value-wise would be Miami, Chicago, and Baltimore.
Okay, yep.
And the I have the actual picks that could be potentially the deals could be centered around. So if those deals were, if a deal was to be made with one of those teams, it would look something like this, in my opinion. It would be the Patriots' 23rd pick in the first round, and their 139th pick in the fourth round, which they just got from Tampa Bay.
Yep. And, that's what they traded Gronk for, right?
Correct.
Right.
And if they trade it with Miami, if Miami was interested in a deal like that, they have picks 39 and 56 in the second round, which come out to be around 850 value points. The Patriots value points 23 and picks 139 is around 800. So it's not exactly even, but it's close enough.
Right.
Where they could add a sixth and get the deal done.
Right.
The other team, Chicago, they have the 43rd pick in the second round and the 50th pick in the second round.
Yep.
That draft board trade value chart comes out to around 870 points, so a little more than Miami. So again, the Patriots might have to add another late round pick, but that could be a potential partner. And another team that actually almost matches the exact value is Baltimore, and they have picks 55 and 60 in the second round.
Do they? They have 55 and 60?
Yep. Okay. And actually, to make the deal actually work, they would actually have to throw in their third rounder, which was pick 92. So it would look something like the Patriots trade pick 23 and 139 for Baltimore's 2 seconds and third. And that would actually be a complete wash as far as the trade value. So those are teams that they've dealt with in the past, they're familiar with organizationally, that I think could definitely be potential trade partners if the Patriots do in fact move out of that 23rd pick.
Right. So neither of you guys think tomorrow that the Patriots are going to make a pick.
I don't.
You don't either.
I hope they do. I'll be watching for it, but I don't expect it.
So you guys have no no inclination that they're even going to move higher up and try and take a quarterback?
To me, it makes no sense to trade up to take a quarterback. The value would be trading down to take someone like Jalen Hurts. You're not going to get high enough to take a Herbert.
Right.
Maybe Love falls to you, but I have a feeling Love is probably going to go 10, 11.
I'm out on Love.
And there you go. He's out on Love.
To me,
in general, not the player, not the man. Tony just hates Love.
Tony hates Love. You do, right?
I hate Love in general, and I definitely don't like Jordan Love. This is what I say about Jordan Love. I think he has raw athletic talent. I don't think he's a bad quarterback.
Right.
I don't think he's a quarterback that's going to lead the Patriots the next 10 plus years in the future. He reminds me a little too much like Colin Kaepernick. He's a little bit too turnover happy.
Okay.
He's got a big arm. He has some athletic ability, but I'm not infatuated with him. I would not take him at 23. As far as what you were saying, Ben, I definitely agree with you. Herbert, I'm a little more in on, but I would not give everything you got to move up to him for him. I don't think this is going to happen, but if Herbert fell to 23, I wouldn't love the pick, but I would not hate it. The one guy that I would move up, I would put all my chips in, and a lot of people are going to hate me for saying this. I know my brother's going to hate me for this. He calls him Tim Tebow Jr., which I don't put much stock in what my brother says as far as his college football evaluations because he doesn't really watch much. But I really like Tua. He's small. His size is scary and intimidating, and his injury history is a bit intimidating. But I do like his accuracy. I think he's the most accurate throw in the draft, and I actually think he's got a lot of zip on the ball, and I would be okay with him being my franchise quarterback. That being said, I don't expect it to happen. I don't see it happening. Let me give you 2 quick names. I know I'm taking up a lot of the time, but
if we're looking for a franchise quarterback, we should be looking for the 6th round, right?
So that's the thing. You can't do that again. You're not going to win the lottery again. You need to put some value in your next guy.
Right.
I'm not writing off Stidham. I actually think he has potential. I like the player. But that being said, the 2 guys that I would be interested in the late second or third rounds is Jalen Hurts or Jake Fromm. I think both of those guys have promising potential, and I see them as leaders. They're different kind of quarterbacks. I mean, Fromm is the more cerebral guy. He's a thinking man quarterback. A lot of people are down on his arm strength, but I actually think he has all the intangibles that mirror Brady. He's a leader. He's always fought for his position. He's beat out 2 4- and 5-star recruits in his college career to be a quarterback. He's led his team to the national championship playoff position 2 years in a row. So I'm really high on Fromm's intangibles. As far as the new age quarterback, that's Jalen Hurts. He's a little less of a thinking man's quarterback, but he definitely has leadership capabilities. He's a little more of an athletic guy, and he definitely has a big arm. The thing that concerns me about Hurts is he a one-year wonder? And I know I liked him at Bama, but Tua did beat him out, and he wasn't as productive in Bama. And I know a lot of Bama quarterbacks don't have those gaudy numbers as they do in the Lincoln Riley Oklahoma offense. But I just hope he's not a flash in the pan. So that's my hesitancy on Hurts. So
is he more of a mobile quarterback?
He's a bit more mobile. He's a bit more mobile.
They all like really mobile quarterbacks always concern me.
Yeah, exactly. So
including Jackson.
Yep. I'm not that. Let's go quickly off topic here. Jackson this year is going to prove a lot to me. I'm not buying in on 1 year. I'm not going to do it.
Right, exactly.
I think this is the new age NFL. He has the ability to be a star, but I'm not making him a Hall of Famer just yet. I want to see what he does this year. And let me say this. This might be a hot take for some people. Look at, and people might hate me for saying this. Look at RG3's rookie year numbers. Look at Lamar Jackson's rookie year numbers. Like I said with Aaron Dobson and Deion Branch, very comparable numbers. Again, I'm not saying that he's going to be RG3, and I know RG3 got
RG3 was a stud for 1 year.
Yeah, and I know he got severely injured, so you can't just put that all on that. But let's just see. This is the year that, to me, is going to prove, is Lamar Jackson really a top tier quarterback?
Right.
And is he a guy that can compete with Mahomes and Watson for years to come? But if I was the Patriots in this draft and I don't believe in Stidham or I want to add value to the quarterback room and add a good quarterback competition, the two realistic guys I would look at are Jake Fromm and Jalen Hurts. The two guys that I think are less realistic but I would be interested in are Herbert and Tua.
So do you guys think that the Patriots definitely take a quarterback, or do you like you said, you expect the unexpected with Bill Belichick? He could not draft a quarterback at all. He could draft 2. You know what I mean? What do you guys think?
He's definitely not going to draft 2. I would be surprised if he does not draft a single quarterback in this draft. I think it's likely going to come in the 3rd.
Yep.
And it's going to be either one of these guys or a guy that nobody's been talking about.
Yep.
A la Garoppolo a few years ago. No one was really talking about him very much, and then all of a sudden he pops with them. I think he's going to take a quarterback. It's a smart play to take a quarterback. I don't think it's the smart play to trade up in the first round to take one.
I agree.
Because I don't think the value is there.
Yeah,
I agree.
You're not getting, the top flight guy. You might get Tua, you might get Love, but I think Burrow and Herbert are both going to be off the board at that point.
Yep.
So I think you take a guy in the 3rd, maybe the 4th round, and see what you can work with. See if there's some guy that just didn't get the same love and accolades that some of these other guys did, certainly Burrow or Tua.
Yeah.
So I'm not too far off Ben's line of thinking. However, we differ a bit on the quarterbacks. Again, I don't want to risk everything we have for Tua, but if he fell somehow outside of the top 10, if he got by Jacksonville at number 9, I would be interested in making a phone call to see what you had to do to go up to get him.
Right.
Outside of Tua, I agree with Ben. I would rather sit put, acquire an additional 2nd or 3rd or multiple seconds and a 3rd and look at Fromm or Hurts. That being said, what do I think is the most likely scenario? Unfortunately, I think you're going to see another 5th, 6th, or 7th round quarterback that no one's heard of, like Ben said. And I think a couple names that have been floated around that I'm not going to pretend to really know much about, just a little tape I've watched. That I'm not interested in these guys. I'm just throwing these names out because they could be guys that Belichick targets in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. Someone like James Morgan. I think he played for, I'm blanking on that, so I'm sorry about that. James Morgan and Jake Luton out of Oklahoma State. Those are two guys that I think could be late rounder guys that Belichick might, have a hankering for. Again, I do not like them. I do not want them. I do not want our next quarterback to be a 6th, 7th round pick because I hate to tell everyone in Patriots Nation, you're not going to win $1 million lottery ticket twice.
Right.
So
although people have won $1 million twice in the lottery.
Yes, they have. James Morgan.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
James Morgan's entering the draft out of FIU, Florida.
FIU, okay. So
Florida
again,
International.
Yes.
Florida's got so many schools.
Yep. So again, if I was the Patriots and I don't believe in stadium or I believe that I want to force a deeper competition to bring the best out in stadium, then I would put it back, like Ben said, in a second or third. That's what I would do.
So you guys are expecting or at least a 2.5 way race for the quarterback position come.
No, because it's not a race.
You think Hoyer's completely out?
No. The third guy would not be involved. The rookie would not be involved.
Well,
you don't think so, no?
Ben, you're making a drastic mistake here. You're assuming, and again, I'm not saying this is a great likelihood, but you're also counting out the fact that Belichick might not still be kicking tires on the veteran market.
No. That's a good point.
Oh,
but
you think he is?
I was going off of what Connor said in terms of a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, I was thinking
but here's three-way. And I think Tony's about to bring it up.
Yep.
The compensation changes after the draft if you pick up Cam Newton or someone else.
Oh, really?
So
let me
go ahead, Tony.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you do not see the Patriots draft one of those guys that we aforementioned, as far as going all in on Tua or Herbert, depending on how you feel about those guys, or Jake Fromm or Hurts in the second or third, I do still think they're going to draft a late round quarterback. That being said, to me, what that signals is, and I could be wrong, but to me, what that signals is that increases the likelihood that they do bring in a veteran. And let me say this now: you may like it, you may hate it. I do not believe the Dalton hype is true. I do think that Cam Newton front has been a little quiet. Yep. I do. And I would not be surprised. I know the money is the issue, but I would not be surprised if the Patriots want to go a different direction, especially in looking at athletic quarterback, even a bridge year or 1 year competition to try to bring out the best instead of a highly incentivized deal. Do not completely rule out Cam Newton. And as a fan of the NFL and as a fan of the Patriots, I will say that I do think 1 year of Cam Newton could be fun to watch. And I honestly do think that Cam Newton in a McDaniels offense, depending on what they do offensively in the draft, and they do have some offensive weapons that are being discounted. They still have White, Edelman, Sanu, Harry. So you can't completely count out these guys. I think that, especially with the line that they have a top 5 offensive line in the league. If they were to do what some people would think would be the unthinkable and sign Cam Newton, I see them as a legitimate top 3 AFC contending team. And that could be a hot take, but that's what I see them as an 11-win team with Cam Newton.
Okay. What about Jameis Winston? No one is talking about him.
He's a turnover machine. I don't see it.
You don't see it? He just throws so many interceptions.
The problem with Newton is that I don't see him meshing with Belichick as far as his personality. But as far as his athleticism, and it's off the charts. As far as he's a rarity, Belichick has already spoken to this numerous times. And if the price is right with Belichick, as we've seen with a lot of guys in the past, if the price is right, Newton could be there for the taking.
Right. Ben, what do you think?
I mean, it's certainly possible. If they don't select a quarterback, then I think the likelihood of them signing another veteran dramatically increases. And it could be Cam because, as Tony mentioned, Belichick has been somewhat enamored with Cam over the years and talks about how difficult he is to scheme against. However, Cam does have his turnover issues. Cam has his health issues.
Right.
One of the things that drives me crazy about Cam is I wonder when his shoulder's going to fall off because he throws off his back foot every time, and he's leaning back on top of that. So he's putting a lot of stress on that shoulder.
He has bad mechanics, but he's a superior athlete.
He's a freak.
I would say this, man. Pairing him with McDaniels' offense, with our offensive line, and with Belichick as a coach, for 1 year, it'd be worth my money to watch every game for sure.
Right. Right. I mean, it's so crazy to think about, though, because this is the first time in 20 years we're trying to figure out who's going to play quarterback for the Patriots.
Yep.
It's just insane to think about. We have no idea. I guess tomorrow will be not tomorrow, but the next 3 days will be really telling as to what we think is going to go on.
The Patriots need another deep draft. They need another fundamentally sound draft. Belichick needs to give us something that's similar to what he gave us in 2010.
Yes.
We came out of that draft with 2 borderline, depending on how you look at it, definitely Patriots Hall of Famers in McCourty and Gronk. You came away with a solid starter for a few years in Brandon Spikes. And I know his off-the-field issues, and rest in peace, Aaron Hernandez was an explosive player for the 2 to 3 years you had him on the roster. So
yeah, he's like the second.
If you can come out of this year's draft with 4 legitimate starters on your team, you're in business.
Right.
And they need to.
Aaron Hernandez, second or third best murderer in NFL history.
Oh, easily.
Second or third.
Ray Lewis and Ray Caruth.
Aaron Hernandez was a stud.
You're missing number 1 there, Tony. His name's
Ray Lewis.
O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson. Hey, O.J. Simpson was not guilty, man. Radio silence.
Yes, not guilty in a court of law.
Yes, not guilty by a jury of his peers, Yeah,
but he murdered those people.
Yeah, I think so did Aaron Hernandez. All right, before we wrap up here, I gotta get a prediction on the Patriots record and the Buccaneers record while we're at it. Patriots record, Buccaneers record.
You want to go first, Ben?
Sure. Patriots record, they'll be 9-7 this year. You look at the schedule; it's a difficult schedule. You got multiple West Coast trips, 2 trips to LA, a trip to Seattle. It's not going to be
tough.
an easy road for them regardless.
Right.
Plus, they're breaking in a new quarterback regardless into their system unless they're going with Brian Hoyer, which I do not think they're going to do.
Oh, please, no, not Hoyer.
So I think they'll be 9-7. Before the Gronk news to Tampa Bay, I had them at 10-6 with the Gronk, because that's a tough division too.
That is
Saints are a good team.
Saints are
Falcons
unreal.
randomly pop up and are decent.
Yes, they try and play hard.
It's going to be a difficult road for them. But I think they're going to be 10-6,
okay,
11-5.
Yep.
So I said before Gronk 10-6. Now with Gronk, I might give them 11-5. But I don't think he's going to be an overall difference maker for them. I think he's going to be their third option.
Right.
Your wide receivers are incredibly talented. I think Gronk's going to get a ton of touchdowns, but I don't think he's going to have a ton of yards.
Yep.
So he might have like a 600-yard reception season with 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, because once they get down to the
old
red zone,
Antonio Gates-esque season.
Can't cover him.
But with Evans and Godwin, you have legitimate options there on the outside.
Right.
And what you can do with Gronk, especially if you're not entirely sure with his health, you can use him as a decoy because now you can't double anybody.
Right, a decoy and a blocker.
How are you gonna? You can't bring a safety down and double cover Evans or Godwin. You can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So Tom Brady's going to have a lot of options to play with, but everything's new. New coach, new quarterback, new tight end.
Yeah, new everything. That, I agree.
New scheme.
Right.
So I'll stick at 10-6 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay.
And that could be good enough to win the NFC South.
Yeah, it's going to be close.
It really could be. But they're definitely making the playoffs. The Patriots, I think the Patriots, unfortunately, will be on the outside looking in.
I kind of think so, too.
So as far as my take on both of those, I'm not too far off of what Ben's thoughts are. We'll go Bucs first. So as far as the Bucs, I actually think Gronk's going to be a little more dynamic. But again, we're mincing hairs here. Ben clearly thinks that he's going to be a factor, and I do too. I think he's going to have a little more of an explosive offensive statistical season. But again, that's neither here nor there. As far as their record goes, the one thing that I definitely agree with Ben wholeheartedly is you cannot discount the fact of, a team, a camaraderie, and a short off season. So because of that, I think 11-5 is definitely reasonable and realistic for them.
Yeah, sure.
If there was a full off season, I think 12-4, 13-3. But let's stick with what we expect to happen. A shortened off season. I go 11-5. I honestly say they do win that division, though, and I think they're going to be a top 2 seed in the NFC, even with that 11-5 record, because the NFC South is going to be a little more watered down in a sense of competition. It's going to bring everyone's record down a bit. So I say 11-5 for the Bucs and a top 2 seed in the NFC. As far as the Patriots go, being a realistic fan, this is where my brain and my heart I have to fight. I want them to win every game. That's not realistic. It's not going to happen, especially this year.
Right.
I think being realistic and not discounting who they have and Belichick being the coach, I think 8-8 is probably reasonable. That being said, I mentioned this before to you, Connor. Because you have Belichick as a coach, you could steal a few games.
Right, exactly. I feel the same exact way.
And let me say this. I do think they're going to challenge for the division because I don't fully buy into the Bills. And I see that the Patriots I think their absolute ceiling in a best case scenario is 11-5. And I think if that were to occur, it would, one, be Belichick's best coaching job of his career. And I think he would be the coach of the year, hands down. And I think that's what I think their ceiling is. But my expectation is about a 500 club, unfortunately.
Right. That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they're going to be about 9-7, and I think they're going to be tied in with like they're going to be like a Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans type team.
I think that they still could win. Yeah, I think they could be a mirror of the AFC South. I think that 9-7 could get them the division. I do.
Right. It's going to be a scrappy year. That's what it's going to come down to.
That's a good word for it. It's going to be scrappy.
It's going to be a scrappy year. It should be. It should be fun to watch, man. All right, where should people follow you? Let them know.
So if anyone wants to follow Pat's Talk on Twitter, that's pretty much all I talk about. That's strictly what I do. That's why it's called Pat's Talk 24/7. So it's at Pats_chatter, CHATTER 247. So give me a follow.
There you go.
Tell me you hate my takes. Tell me you love my takes. My mock draft's coming out tomorrow, so take a look out for that, guys.
Let's go. Ben, you have anything to add?
Who would you rather play for? It is what it is, Belichick, or win or lose we booze, Bruce Arians?
No, Belichick, hands down. He's still the greatest coach of all time.
I think Connor wants to choose the booze.
I got to choose the booze.
I haven't drank a sip of alcohol in about 4.5 years. I don't know if you could trust me, but I'm going with Belichick. I want the rings.
That's true. That's true. We want the rings. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on. We'll see how it all plays out in the next couple days.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully I can come on soon in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Once this is all over, we'll get you up here on the stage.
Sounds great, guys. Take it easy.
All right, man. Let's go, Pats.
All right.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.